Let's fight. Happy Monday. Happy post-emancipation as well. Good to see each and every one of you. Thanks for joining the live stream this evening. And you know when you guys come on, you have to share the live stream. Wherever you're joining us from, whether you're at home here in Guyana or whether you're in the diaspora, Region 11, whether that's the Caribbean, that is the USA, it's Canada, it's somewhere in Europe, it's in Asia, wherever you're joining us from the North Pole even, we welcome each and every one of you. Quite a program for you this evening. We have moved a little bit away from our usual programming where we have the hot topics and so on. The hot topics is our main topic this evening. We're going to be talking with Mr. Khemraj Ramjattan from the Alliance for Change, the leader of the Alliance for Change and Member of Parliament. We're going to be talking to Mr. Joseph Harmon, the leader of the opposition, and also Member of Parliament. I should have started with that. And as well, Dr. David Hinds, who is one of the leaders there of the Working People's Alliance. Quite a discussion ahead of us this evening as we discuss the state of the nation 1 year after. Guys, good to have each and every one of you. We're going to, of course, wait until we get to that magic number. Good to see you, Marilyn Thomas and Claudette Clark and Desiree, Smart Felix, Donna De Barros, Anastasia Thomas, Diane Fordyce, Myrtle Hines, Donald David, Roxanne, Aaron, Don Raymond, Candy Blair, Albert Morgan, all of you wonderful, wonderful people. Good to see all of you guys, wherever you're picking up the live stream from this evening. Good to see you guys. Hope you guys have had a good, just adjusting our cameras a little bit at our end. Hope you guys have had a good emancipation. And we know we're still trying to, at this end here, to make real the promises of emancipation, granted so many decades ago, and yet still to be fully realized. But guys, we trust that you have had a good time. We've been on the fighting front at our end, trying to keep these jagabats honest, and good to have all of you with us this evening. Again, we are still discussing, folks, the state of the nation 1 year after. Quite a bit of information breaking on the wires this afternoon, and this is going to be one of the things we're going to be talking about. Again, we see this promise of a pay increase for public servants. Wow. So you have renewed the promise on a promise. 2 budgets later, in March, the National Assembly approved this raise for public servants, an increase in wages and salaries for public servants. Months later, nothing. And now they're telling us by the end of the year, coming soon. That is the theme for this fraudulent install administration. And I'm going to be walking you through one of the presentations that were made by the install Irfan Ali just today. And I'll point out to you, it's just a litany of coming soon. And I'm going to have my guests on in just a bit, starting with Mr. Khemraj Ramjattan, leader of the Alliance for Change. Guys, good to have each and every one of you. Ingrid Pearson, Violet Mary, Faye Dover, Denise October, Walita Bess, Andy Nasha Cumberbatch, Harry Dukuran. Good to see you, Uncle Harry, there, joining us from Texas. They say everything is bigger in Texas. Derek Smith, Malabi Clark, Anne-Marie Selby, Andrew Cuthbert, Brenda Brafford, all of you great folks, all of you great Guyanese folks at home, and as we said, in the diaspora. Good to have each and every one of you. We discussed this evening the state of the nation 1 year after. And let me get right to it. Off the bat. And I welcome this evening Mr. Khemraj Ramjattan to our discussion this evening. Mr. Ramjattan, a very good night to you.
Thank you very much, Sharad.
I see you fully decked
here,
still celebrating emancipation.
Yeah, I got on my little gear here, and I was up at quarantine yesterday, spoke to a couple of the comrades and colleagues, and lots to say, quite frankly. And only today, talking to a couple of some other persons on this emancipation and its significance and all of that. But, you know, we still have to carry on. And in carrying on, we got to talk about the state of the nation 1 year after.
Fantastic. Then let's get right to it. And I want to use to frame our discussion this presentation that was made by Irfan Ali just today as an address to the nation, and some things stand out quite striking. And I want to use this because you have to be able to turn their own arguments on its head and to show us where we have come a year later since this installed regime took office on August 2nd in 2020. I want to state off the bat, looking at this presentation as just a document, divorcing ourselves from the politics. Some things are very, very striking. More than 28 paragraphs were dedicated just to the 5-month protracted electoral period. They are still back there trying to litigate that issue. And that is an issue that the courts haven't even come to a conclusion as yet. Member of Parliament, Ramjattan, you know that in the Parliament, when matters are sub judice, we don't discuss them publicly. Nonetheless, more than 28 paragraphs of this national address was dedicated to trying to litigate the 5-month protracted period of our elections. And then the installed Irfan Ali begun with oil and gas and some other things. Why not let us start there? Because let me take an excerpt from what he said. He said that we're on the cusp of massive socio-economic transformation, on the cusp, right? Of massive socio-economic transformation that can take us to new heights. If we are on the cusp, First Oil was 2 years ago. 2 years later, why are we still on the cusp? Why aren't we feeling this oil economy?
Well, it is the charade and the fake, positions that they're taking that they're going to, emphasize that 5-month period. That is history. That is gone. And of course, it is presently in the courts as litigation, which is being now expanded to the Court of Appeal. Well, appealed to the Court of Appeal. But, that is where the PPP and its disinformation and distractions will occur. It will want to emphasize that and not realize, as I have been saying all along, that a democracy does not only mean the moment of elections and the results of an elections. It has to do with also all the other aspects of governance and administration and how you keep fundamental human rights in order, and all of the other guardrails that are now being dismantled. So there was difficulties and contentions during the course of that elections. Those are now disputed by the opposition as to regards results and all of that. But we have done the correct thing, carry it to the courts. The courts will determine it. In the meantime, now you are in government. You're the president. You have been installed there. We would like to use that word, but whatever it is, you're the president. I've gone through the argument that we have done everything right now to ensure that you are the person as president to deal with the matters at hand. And that is why today I am shocked and stunned as to when now this president, having had the position of him being declared thus, is going to say that he would like to only appoint the chancellor and the chief justice when the opposition recognizes his government. Now, I noticed that Mr. Harmon recently, in a couple of minutes ago, issued a statement on the matter. And I want to say that this president is proving that he comes from the University of Iflot rather than the University of Ghana. It is absurd what he did say there, most ludicrous, and it is crass ignominy of intellect on his part when he's going to do that. These two ladies, notwithstanding their judgments, and sometimes we feel that there might be problems with them, and of course we have a right up to an apex court to go and make our quarrels heard there, are the two most senior judges deserving of these two positions. And extra constitutional requirements now that Joe Harmon has to say and bow down to this little god called Irfan Ali, that I recognize and whatever else, and I don't know what procedure it will take, is just stupidity to the hilt. And I must say that, again, one day after the 1 year, another mighty mistake has been made by this president. And so, apart from the rest that we're going to talk about, this one just goes to show that they don't want to appoint these people. It came a long time. And I mean, I had my little disagreements in our administration too. I felt as AFC leader that both should have been appointed a long time. But whatever it is, prior to 2015, they were not being appointed. There was huge problems in relation to these two positions. I think it was Carl Singh then, and now we have the two most senior people. And the president now is making a very foolish requirement and conditionality that Harmon has to go to him, bow down and say, I, Irfan Ali, is president. And then he's going to appoint these two senior legal officers, Chancellor and Chief Justice, to the substantive position. So, all of this talk, 28 paragraphs on the elections, that is what the PPP is good at. They have been tremendous students of this communist propaganda. You bear down on the electorate a certain negative that transpired in history. And then that is what they feel. But Guyanese, especially young people, are getting smarter. And so 28 paragraphs will matter nothing to those young Guyanese. They're going to ask them, how are you going to bring down the cost of living? How are you going to bring down the high unemployment rates? How are you going to bring down the COVID deaths? Answer those. Give me 28 paragraphs each on those. And then we're talking, Mr. President.
And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But you mentioned the average Guyanese. And let's talk a little bit about the average Guyanese. In this presentation, quite strikingly by Irfan Ali, he says that never have our people been so buoyant, so positive, and so sure that economic good fortune has smiled on us. Now, if economic good fortune has smiled on us, why the high prices in the marketplace? Why the high prices for oil, for gasoline? Is this economic good fortune? And while you bear that in mind, I want to draw your attention to a number of items in the marketplace that has gone up, and whether this reflects economic good fortune. And those persons who are now joining us, we invite you guys to share the live stream. We always say that is the price of admissions. Share the live stream far and wide, and let us see those emojis and let us see those shares as well. And we invite your comments. Rice has gone up. Sugar has gone up. Oil, flour, salt, chana dal, black eyed pea, shallot, bora, bhaji, cabbage, squash, bygone, pumpkin, beef, chicken, toilet paper, soap, pork, salt, fish, sardine. A whole gamut of necessaries have gone up. And Irfan Ali in this speech talked about economic good fortunes have smiled on us and everybody buoyant. I'm not seeing this on the ground at all.
The bigger the lies and the Gobelian attitude of this government is what is at play here. Bara Jagdeo knows that thing like tea. I'll tell you that. And he got a number of people there like Donald Ramutar and Clement Rohi and all of them. They know that thing. So the bigger the lie and talk about economic buoyancy in a time when Guyanese literally have difficulties getting meals, 3 meals together. It's so outrageous. But they know that when you deal with the most outrageous and the extremes of this untruthfulness about it, people kind of get hardened to the whole thing, and especially their supporters. And that is what they want to do here. I mean, it is very, very strange. I went to quarantine, as I told you, yesterday, and I spoke to a number of people. And all of them, and these are supporters of the PPP, all of them say things have gotten harder.
Things tight.
You mentioned everything. And also transportation cost. So many things. Prices for gasoline and the dieseline for the rice farming and so on. And they understand that them fellas this have not kept their promises. Now, we can be a little unjust because indeed there were flooding and there was COVID and so on. But whatever it is, let us be very real and speak the truth and not go and say that there is the greatest economic buoyancy in our economy now. It is the worst economic times. It is the worst social times. And social in the sense of so much robbery and thief going on in front of the cameras. I understand that some of the cameras now being cut off because of the fact they don't want to see this thievery going on and so on. So it is important to understand that there is absolutely a fake reality that was portrayed by the president in that speech. A completely difference from what is on the ground as against what he was talking about. And so that is why, I mean, if I have to give him, I give him a fail mark. And, you know, he is proving himself that he's but a mere instrumentality of Jagdeo there, who is giving him the instructions and so on. And I think he could have done better by being a little more truthful, but he was not. He emphasized that 5-month period as if that hasn't gone and is now part of history. They are in government. He's the president. Installed or uninstalled, whatever it is, get on with the business of ensuring accountability, transparency, the democracy that we talk about, and so on. But no, and also the economy. And then you're going to go and give that kind of buoyancy. Well, it didn't give me any buoyancy, and I'm certain it did not give a lot of the people in Berbice buoyancy, and even those others that I've spoken to. And the criticisms, you know, are coming forcefully from a number of quarters that I least expect. But, you know, this is how it is in Guyana. It is not going to be an easy place to govern, but I think we could do a better job when we govern with social cohesiveness and truth being the two principal pillars upon which you're going to make that governance method. And so it is important that you should not have gone on with like that.
Fantastic. And viewers, as we at this point in the program, we want to encourage you guys to share the live stream as far and wide. Guys, don't let me go to fight with some of you, you know, whether you're joining us on Twitter, you're joining us on YouTube, you're joining us on Facebook. Rupert August and Brenda Braffett, Yasmin Henry, Claudette Bovey Lewis. At this point, I want to introduce the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Joseph Harmon.
Thank you very much, Sharon, and thank you very much for inviting me to this program. I was listening to Khemraj, very passionate. Khemraj is so on the money. And I just want to add to what Khemraj has said.
Go right ahead, jump in there, mix it up.
You know, Sharon, this program that you have here, I spoke yesterday to Adam Harris, and I was saying to Adam that we have something called, what I call digital suppression, that this PPP government, this PPP regime, that they are practicing. And so some of their numbers and so on that you see there, sometimes they are suppressing it because they know thousands and thousands of people are watching at this program. But when you look at their program, I was looking at some program being done by Mark Phillips this afternoon. For all the millions and billions of dollars we're spending on NCN, all he had was 39 people watching at him. 39. So you understand that people are not caught up by the lies that they are telling, the sort of fake news that they are producing on a daily basis. And this madness by Irfan Ali this afternoon. Look, I understand he's saying that I am responsible. I have to give him validation. Why I got to validate him? The people of Guyana said that what happened there on the 2nd of March and the results of the recount on the 2nd of August showed a certain position. Yeah. And they have to deal with that. So whether Irfan Ali believes that he must be bowed down to like a god or something, not me. Not me. I'm sure Khemraj is not going to do that either. The reality is this, is that since they were installed in office, installed or not, you are the de facto person in the office of the president.
That's
And
right.
therefore, you have to govern this country in an equitable manner for all of the people of Guyana. So you don't think that you can now just decide to blank out over 218,000 plus people that the Elections Commission gave us at the recount, and I'm sure it's much more than that. You can't blank them out for an entire year and then say that you are governing for all of the people of Guyana, that this is one Guyana. He is governing for less than half of Guyana. And what we have to look at, Sharon, is every time they come up with numbers. The last time they came up with the numbers for COVID, and they said that only 20% of the people had taken the vaccine because the rest of the people listened to AP and UAFC. So I said, well, if 80% listening to us, that is a clear manifestation of who got the support of the people. So this ignorance by Irfan Ali this afternoon that says nothing can be done because we can't have consultation. The Constitution prescribes consultation and engagement between the president and the leader of the opposition. And so he goes on to find excuse when in fact he should stand up as a man. Stand up as a man. You are in the office of the president, not Barra Jagdeo. Stand up and be counted. The people have you there. You're spending our money. You're spending our money on helicopters. You're spending our money going all across the country. And you're giving money to who you want. I saw this letter by this guy who spoke about the Muslim giveaway. All of these contracts you are giving out. What is going on? Look, only 2 days ago, I got a letter from a gentleman in Trinidad and Tobago that told me, look, there is a fellow coming into the country. He's going to Barbies, Khemraj, and he's getting 150 acres of land. And he's building some refinery or whatever it is there. None of that passed through any procurement process. None of that is advertised. And so what we are finding happening here, Sharon, is that we've had a year of no transparency. We've had a year of these assets of this country being farmed off to the friends of Barra Jagdeo, Irfan Ali, and the PPP. And let me tell you this, the local business people are now complaining. The local businessmen. So I asked one of them who called me, I said, what happened to the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry? What happened to the Private Sector Commission? Where are their voices now?
Yeah.
I said, no, you're coming to us. We're going to represent you because you're Guyanese. But you got to tell these fellas here that your support, you gave millions and millions of dollars to push us into opposition. Tell them what you understand, that they're thieving. Look, this statement here by Irfan Ali this afternoon, I think I sent you, Sharon, a copy of an acknowledgement letter.
Yeah, and
Now,
they acknowledge you as leader of the opposition.
Yes, and I wrote to him as Irfan Ali president. What more you want? And your office, your confidential secretary, acknowledges that and sends the acknowledgement to me. So why are you trying to hide behind this question of acknowledgement before you get on with the job? You cannot convince any chancellor or chief justice that the commissions cannot meet because you're waiting on me. I made a statement on the occasion of International Women's Day when I said, I am prepared to meet with you tomorrow and deal with these appointments. So it is basically a sham. Irfan Ali is not the president. Jagdeo is acting through the back door.
This is third term.
It's the third time he get in through the back door. And
That's
if you
correct.
see a statement this afternoon to that effect,
Yeah.
that
So
he
Well,
must not, huh?
No, and I want to say the president and Jagdeo, sorry, or the Jagdeo as president and the instrumentality or finale, they
Yes.
don't want to make the appointment, although the leader of the opposition has agreed that the two be appointed. That's the problem we have here. And I
So-
am these two ladies will understand.
so let
what
me
is
set that up.
coming down.
Let me set that
Because
up.
you know what? If Khemraj, they like to keep people acting
That's right.
so that they can keep the sword of Damocles over their
That's
head,
correct.
and
Yes.
so that is a threat. And so what we're seeing here in Guyana is not just about these two appointments, but all of the illegal transactions that are taking place. And so there's an element of fear. There's
That's
a lot
correct.
of people who are afraid now to come out and say that you're giving away everything to the Trinidadians.
Yeah.
But we don't have no fear. We can say it because we see it, and our people come to us and
That's
tell us
correct.
what is taking place.
Leader of the opposition, as we're on this point about you acknowledging them as a legal government and them acknowledging you as leader of the opposition, it's madness. And for those persons who are joining us, Yasmin, Henry, and all of the other folks here, Claudette, Bobby, Lewis, we invite you guys to share the live stream. We said we have a responsibility to bring you the credible and valid information, and you guys have a responsibility to help us to circulate it. So invite you guys wherever at home here in Guyana you're joining us from, wherever in the diaspora you're joining us from, to share the live stream. So we have this lengthy presentation, if you want to call it that, from Irfan Ali. And I want to use an independent source, leader of the opposition, and also Mr. Ramjattan. I want to use an independent source. Let's look at Starbuck News editorial just today with the headline 1 year later. And this is what Starbuck News, with its own leanings, right? They have come to their own deliberate judgment on that issue, leader of the opposition, you articulating there. And here is what Starbuck News says. It says that it was a blunder on the part of the government not to fully engage the leader of the opposition. This is a blunder that will have all manner of repercussions, not the least the inability to mobilize support for vaccinations in all parts of the country. The opposition leader remains the formal spokesperson in parliament for that nearly half of the population that didn't vote for President Ali's government. Their views, insecurities, and rights cannot be diminished one whit through the intransigence of the government or even the opposition. President Ali must ensure the immediate activation of the full gamut of responsibilities of the leader of the opposition as it pertains to representing the views of the people who voted for the APNU AFC, in addition to the constitutional functions such as the consultations on the substantive appointments of the Chancellor of the Judiciary, the Chief Justice, and the Commissioner of Police. Reactions?
Look, Sharad, the editorial by Starbuck News captures the essence of what we have been saying. And so it is not for Irfan Ali to be hiding behind this facade which is being created about no consultations. I have said on at least 6 different occasions, and I have written to Irfan Ali on at least 6 different occasions, pointing out the critical issues which we have to deal with as a country. On the 2nd of September, when we were sworn in as members of parliament, I said even though we are going to file petitions in the court challenging the legality of this administration, that we were prepared to consult and to work with the regime on issues of national security, issues of sovereignty, issues of public health, in particular the COVID-19 pandemic, and any other issues in the public interest which we consider to be important. So we had those things set out on the 2nd of September. In my budget presentation, at the last budget, I pointed out again issues on which, as a country, we need to consult, and that this has nothing at all to do with political leanings. These were issues which affect the people of this country. I told Irfan Ali that you cannot you cannot utilize the resources of the country in a very partisan way and not recognizing that there are thousands and thousands of people who are out there that are being marginalized on a daily basis. And so these are issues I raised. I put it in my budget speech as well. I extracted that element from the budget speech and sent it to him as a letter. I said to him that in Guyana, we cannot see red and green communities where it has to do with the resources of the state. But we have to see Guyanese people who live in all of these communities. And that is why Khemraj can speak about what is happening in Barbies. All of the MPs, our 31 on the opposition side, can speak on a daily basis about what is happening all across this country. And we are seeing a greater proclivity on the part of the ordinary people of this country to speak out against the injustices that are taking place. Khemraj spoke about crime. We spoke about the way in which this COVID-19 pandemic is being handled. We speak about all of these issues, the flooding which has taken place, and the manner in which Irfan Ali says that $10 billion which had been approved by the National Assembly, the way in which they will spend it. We had said before, even before they agree on the 10 billion, give every Guyanese household 100,000.
Yeah.
And after we are able to make an assessment of the damage and loss, then we could add to that. So this 10 billion they got from Parliament. They also got money from the European Union. They got money from US aid. And in addition to that, the fact that Ali described Guyana as being a disaster state, a tier 2 disaster, that allowed for additional resources to come in. But what are they doing with this money and all these things they're bringing in? The people still under pressure.
Yeah.
If since May, I believe, we agreed to this money, this $10 billion, you wait until one day before your 1 year up to go and say sharing out money. These things just show that there is no real heart or no love for the people in what they do.
And let's pick up on that.
The education grant, just a few days before the 1 year up, just to tick a box to say, oh, we did this, we did this, we did that. So I'm saying, Sharad, that this government, this regime, they get a fail grade. In fact, I don't even believe they actually, Irfan Ali actually gets on the table for a grade, because somebody say A, B, C, D, E, F, he gone right down to Z.
They used to have one called U, unclassified.
So let's circle back a little bit up to this presentation. I want to get your reaction on some other issues. This lengthy statement that came out of Irfan Ali. I said early on, Leader of the Opposition, that there were over 28 paragraphs dedicated to the 5 months protracted electoral process. There were 13 paragraphs dedicated to COVID. There were 7 paragraphs dedicated to the national flooding. There were 2 paragraphs dedicated to the border dispute or territorial integrity. 2 paragraphs dedicated to that. While I'm there, this presentation seemed to be a presentation, as the folks share the live stream, that can be themed coming soon. He outlined and he walked us through a mere 7 things that they were in the process of executing. 7 things in this entire presentation. I don't know how long he took to read it to the nation, but I want to walk through some of the things he said are coming soon. He highlighted, mind you, about 7 things that they are currently undertaking and over 20 things coming soon.
Yes.
The Linden to Mabura section of the highway, coming soon. A road at 58 Country Creek, coming soon. Purika to Goshen Road, coming soon. Temerity Bartica Link, coming soon. New bridge across the Demerara River, coming soon. Schooner to Purika feasibility study, coming soon. New highway from Eccles to Mandela, coming soon. Oh, this is their campaign manifesto.
Yeah, those are campaign promises.
Rehearsing for the nation. No work has been done on them. Ogle to Eccles Highway, coming soon. Gas to Shore project, coming soon. Amilo Falls, coming soon. Solar generating, coming soon. The LCLS, they gone back there, coming soon. 20,000 scholarships that were supposed to have been awarded in July, still coming soon. They have not given out one scholarship, but they have said, promise fulfilled, coming soon.
Yes.
The establishment of a world-class oil to gas institute, coming soon. Specialty hospital, coming soon. And so this was the speech, coming soon.
No, well, that is what I am saying here, Sharon. It is important. I know your question is directed to leader of the opposition, but this is what they're good at. They then go tell their supporters that all these things that you have just emphasized here will be coming soon. And so they can live in that hope, whilst they are starving. I mean, they got plenty people in Berbice today. They ain't got no garden or this and that and whatever. And they're telling me that their income for the month done already because the inflation that has happened because of the high cost of living now has eaten into almost 40% of their purchasing power. And they ain't get no increases. And then the rice and the garden and the hand, whatever you used to make, all the income and income source that is other than their jobs, all flood out and this and that, especially in Blackbush there. So when they they ain't got nothing. They don't want to talk the truth that these people are suffering. They're living in mudsling kind of territory on the ground there at the bottom house and so on. They want you to hear about the bridge that they're going to build whenever they're going to build, the gas to shore. Up to now, they can't do an impact assessment and all of that. So these things, for their support base, we got to give them by one chance. Now look what nice thing with them a bring back. And I want people like you to de-emphasize, because people already know that it's a pack of lies. Nothing will happen except that they're going to steal more and they're going to discriminate against the public servants. I want to tell you yesterday when I was talking to them what came up. And it was a sugar worker that brought this thing up. When we said that we had to make a decision in relation to sugar workers, because the topic always comes when I go Bobby's. And they say, man, but y'all shouldn't do that and so on. And you have to rationalize it. I said, when you compare this thing, when we went into government, we gave Gaisuko $16 billion. We loved you guys. We had Mr. Granger, myself, Harmon, everybody in that cabinet said we can't close down nothing. We can't rationalize nothing. Although indeed the thing was coming up for all of that. 16 billion we give you. The second year, 2016, we give you $11 billion to save that industry. 2017, $9 billion we gave you. You know what this government did when they got into government? Immediately, not even having a commission of inquiry, they knock off about 2,000 public servants. Nowhere in the world, the humanism of the APNU AFC administration could have been, it was very explicit when in 3 years we spent at $36 billion, $1 billion every month on sugar workers. And when I start talking to them like that, they say, if it's true, I want to treat them black man, so all them public servants and knock off black people. And we treated the sugar workers with a humanism that saw them gaining $1 billion for 36 months for each month of that 36 months. And people are realizing it, because the more you talk to them, and we got to do that, I find sometimes we just hesitate to go and talk to especially East Indian people and so on. But we got to get our backsides out and go and talk to them and give them the distinctions of how we governed as against Soon as they come in. And who they knock off, buddy? They knock off them community health workers that we train for the COVID thing.
And haven't paid them.
And right, and they pay them. People like those who are necessary in a time of COVID, like this. You know, because you got to go and give the jobs and so on. One of the things about why we are so low in the rates of vaccination is because you're not getting people going into these areas and so on. And these were the COVID workers that we trained, and they gone and knocked them off. And look, me a East Indian, but I could see from their distribution of even what is called the hampers and the COVID relief. And I got it from friends at Hope and so on, Better Hope and so on. By why I left them black people there? Look, them and live there. Well, me no know them. The PVP people who are distributing the money. And so this kind of discrimination is what this president or instrument for the president should have been saying in about 14 paragraphs.
Yeah.
Cohesion. He got it. Yes. He talk about the elections as if the elections are done yet.
And let me circle back there and pull in the leader of the opposition while the folks who are viewing us share the live stream. Leader of the opposition coming frontally to COVID. Again, 28 paragraphs to August 2nd and the protracted period last year. 13 paragraphs to COVID. And vaccines coming soon. More vaccines coming soon. This was Starbuck News in this editorial said about COVID-19. It said that, let me make sure I'm quoting them correctly here. Apologies. Let me find my notes. COVID-19 remains a clear and present danger, leader of the opposition, to our people, and there are ongoing questions about the government's unwillingness to tighten measures, including targeted shutdowns when necessary, particularly with the likelihood that the rampant Delta variant is present here. The death tolls continue to mount. When we demitted office, the death toll was 21.
Yes.
Today it is over 500, I think 47.
From March to August.
The rate of infections, confirmed cases, was 474. It's over 22,000. Your thoughts?
Yes. Listen, Sherrod, let me just briefly deal with this 28 paragraph of lies. Because we have put out into the public domain a documentary called The Theft of Democracy, which highlights all of these irregularities and scampishness that the PVP went on with. We saw all of it, the 49 boxes with over 11,000 and something votes. These are the irregularities on which these guys sit. And so when you seek to say, for 5 months we delayed democracy, look at the facts. Look, Sharon, you can take me almost a whole night, but let me quickly tell you this, that after the 2nd of March, from the 4th of March going on, the PPP started a campaign to make Guyana appear internationally as an unstable place. The first thing they had this insurrection and went into Region 4, that office where they were counting the ballots, broke down the place, stampede. And I basically said, look, now that we have the opportunity to look in retrospect, the same thing that happened on the 6th of January on Capitol Hill, where those people were actually validating the votes, is the same thing they did here. But over there, those people are being charged and so on and going to court. Over here, they are rewarded with contracts. They are rewarded with diplomatic appointments. They are rewarded with all of the benefits and the fruits of the labors of the Guyanese people for that scampishness which they did there. And he talked about the 5 months. Who was responsible for that? From the 4th of March, the PPP under Anil Nandalal went to court with Holidar 3 times to stop the process. And while that was going on, at the same time, concurrently, Jagdeo and the PPP started to create disturbances across the East Coast, West Coast, Barbies quarantine. starting fires on the road, breaking down buses, stoning people, running police with cutlass. So all of these things were meant to create an atmosphere of instability, allowing for CARICOM leaders to come in. And so they came in, and you know who was the first person to sign off on any documentation talking about RICOM? Barra Jagdeo. Jagdeo didn't even put his signature anywhere yet. Jagdeo don't sign off on it. So when you're talking about 5 years of delays, they were responsible for it because they knew that they would have lost. They knew that once Region 4 ballots came in, that was it for them. And so they created this disturbance. So I don't want to hear about no 28th paragraph that Irfan Ali talking about.
28th paragraph of lies.
28th paragraph of nonsense, of crap. That is what it is. But let us look now. Let's look past that. Let us look at what is the record of achievement in office. The Guyanese people want to see a deal with COVID. We spoke about COVID. We spoke about what we were doing when we were in office from March, when we had what we call patient zero, until
Correct.
August when we left.
Correct.
21 deaths only. We managed it because every ministry of the government had to put forward a proposal on how they will deal with COVID. Khemraj is here. Khemraj was Minister of Public Security. And he can tell you that every police division commander had to submit a plan on how they will put aside, they will allocate a specific unit to deal with specific lockdown in certain areas where the COVID was found. And so we had a plan for this whole thing. But they came in and they threw everything out through the window. In fact, if you look at the document which they have now called the official gazette, in which they cite the measures, every month they keep repeating the same thing. So somebody read the last one. They want to know, well, what's going on here? This first paragraph in the measures talks about the problem. This thing is getting out of hand. We have to shut down everything and start over and so on. Now, this is a measure that you're talking about in end of July of 2021. You are in office since August of 2020. And until now, the narrative that you put out there is the same. The only thing that they change are some of the measures. And those measures that they're changing have no thought being put behind it. No scientific basis on which they are citing, on which they are relying to put in place these measures affecting our lives, our livelihood. And then, of course, we deal with the question of the vaccines. You know, they're complaining that, okay, our vaccine rate is low. But so many thousands of Guyanese people are turning up, people are lining up now, they can't get the vaccine. They nearly break down the Ministry of Health during last week. Break down the fence. Because it was obvious that some people must have gotten the wind that they were going to bring these measures into place on the 1st of August, Emancipation Day, that you, instead of allowing people freedom, you're now crimping that freedom and make it the country less free, because you're now saying that citizens cannot access government services unless they're fully vaccinated and they show the certificate. Well, you haven't vaccinated all of these people. Tomorrow, the old age pensioners will be going out for pension tomorrow. They have to deal with the NIS and all of these government services tomorrow. Let us see what is going to happen. What they have done, they have created a new regime for skullduggery and scampishness.
Yeah.
Because what they're going to do, you're going to start see people buying these little books. You're going to see people who, once the rainfall and the book get damaged, it's like if they didn't get a vaccine because the book damaged. And it's a paper thing, you know, Sherrod. So once old people are going to rain, if you put it in a little plastic and so on, and they get damaged, that is it for you. you got to now go and find some other body to get a certificate. And so we are placed in a situation that they've placed this country in a situation that is worse than when we left office in August of 2020. Many of the
Certainly
countries
not buoyant.
people have to go to these countries. They're not accepting Sputnik vaccines.
That's right.
They're not accepting it. So you will have a problem when you go to all these countries and you turn up with your Sputnik thing. They say, well, we don't recognize that. You got to go and still go through a certain procedure. So that what we are seeing is a bungling of the response to a major pandemic. We have offered to help. We have offered to help on thousands of occasions, but they believe they know it all. But I think when I look at it very carefully, what is happening, they want to make sure that our eyes are not there in the task force because they want a thief. You know, I understand now they've actually rehired a drugs bond when they were killing George Norton, so that he rent drug bond. Same thing they're doing now, $6 million a month. And you check the company that is connected to it. Check the companies who are now getting the contracts to bring in the face mask and these things are people who are connected to this same health system. Check those things. And so what you're seeing is that they create what I call a smoke screen. Knock off this body here, carry this one to court, carry this one there. And so that you create a smoke screen and you attract the attention of Guyanese people on these little things while you are doing what Glenn used to call the heist of Guyana.
So, let's talk about that, some of those smoke screens, because you talk about them bungling COVID, but
Yes.
what on God's earth is happening with crime?
Oh, Lord.
Left, right,
Crime.
and center.
When you have a government that could commit crime with the Sheikh Al Maktoum,
Yes.
United Arab Emirates,
Yes.
what expect that will happen down on the ground below? I have always said this, that the exemplars of criminality are largely those big boys. And as you can see from that kind of contractual arrangement for the Sputnik, and also now that you get so much of drugs going to, what them countries name? Belgium and I know else.
Germany.
And we talk about Panadol and some
Right.
cocaine. When we talk
Exactly.
about Panadol and aspirin.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, these fellas create what is called that climate for people to deal with it, apart from the economic hardships. Because a lot of people feel that when they are doing it that way and they have no qualms in doing it, why not? We should do it too. And that is why you're going to have all across region, street rob, street this, street, all kind of street. And even, you know, as I mentioned, some of the video equipment, I understand they're turning them upwards to check out the sky as if they turn telescope. They're going into the cosmos instead of the ground now, watching what is happening there. And, you know, it is some people that are supportive of the PPP joking up the thing. Nighttime, I understand. Broken up all the cameras that you bought from the Chinese to get this smart city program effected.
Yes.
And even private people now are catching all the crimes out of, and a number are not being reported.
Yeah.
Like those Chinese people that got robbed there, Japanese people, they look like Asian.
All over
The place. It is not being reported. And then I don't know why they are coming with this. I believe that the police force is not being professional again, because we noticed that a number of things are happening there. They are not wanting the professionalism via the police service commission and so on. And so you're going to get public relations department putting out statistics that are not true. The whole police force now has gone haywire, askew, totally askew. Elections are being rigged at the Police Service Association, or whatever it's called, Police Force Association, so that it could bring up certain people who are going to then say, we recommend this person for commissioner of police.
Yeah.
They are not
Yes.
interfering with police service commission members, court orders, and so on. And you know the whole gamut about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
and then you have, that is not a good thing for such a sensitive organization. And all kinds of things will happen there. And so
Yeah.
the situation is going to come off and go big time. And you're going to see a variety of other crimes happening. Kidnapping, hijacking, all kinds of things going to happen. Execution, murder is going to happen more now. You're going to find out. It's just near happening, you know. A lot of people inside of this cocaine dealership and so on, and let's bring them from Colombia and so on, they can start fighting Mati there. All kinds of things can happen.
Yes.
And piracy will come back in.
Leave your opposition.
Yes.
Just before
yes.
you jump in, I want to alert our viewers that we're going to go into a little overtime. Bear with us. We're in overtime. And as you are with us, still share the live stream. Lots of you haven't taken the opportunity to share the live stream, and we invite you guys to do so. The leader of the opposition, their own supporters, are saying, what y'all doing with this crime?
Yes. Well, Sherrod, you know, this crime, we have a criminal cabal that is in charge of crime. And like what people say, when you put cat to watch milk, you know what is going to happen. Now, we have actually filed a no confidence motion against the Minister of Home Affairs because the PVP themselves ain't got no confidence in the police because they want to break up the police force, and it's taken a long time for them to do that because we have a strong police service commission that has taken a strong stance on the matter. They decide, you know what happened? We ain't able to wait on him. Let us create our own outfit to deal with crime. And so they create a new outfit to deal with crime. People who you don't know. You know, over the last 2 or 3 months, they had over 30-something new security companies formed in this country. Many of them, before they even get the certification, they don't get firearm license.
Yes, AK-47.
Right? You see the big guns and so on that they run the country with. They got more guns than the police. And so how does a citizen in this environment feel? How does he feel about his own security? How does a company come in to invest in Guyana, rate the country, and rate security? The Americans have said that Guyana is a high-risk security country. A high risk. When you can have actually a man gunned down in front of Palm Court, not far away from where Irfan Ali lives. And all of these months up to now, you can't find this person. Look, there's one feature about all that has taken place, all of the criminality that has taken place. And I spoke about this yesterday, about the David Rudder song, Somebody Letting the Cocaine Pass. There's a feature about the criminality that is taking place, and that is that nobody's being caught.
Yeah.
Nobody's going before the court. The biggest drug bust in the world.
Yep.
And now they're talking about
Leptons.
who fiddle
With the cameras.
the record at GRA.
Pictures and so on.
Who fiddle with it? And a whole container gone through. Every week almost, we are getting planes coming from all over. Once he's sightseeing.
That's right.
Cocaine inside it, guns inside it, ammunition inside it, foreign currency inside of it. So what we are seeing here is a criminal state. We are going into what is called a deep state, this administration. A deep state. And that is beneath all of the normal regulatory authorities, beneath all of the democracy, the democratic principles. I think Khemraj calls it the demolition, the destruction of the guardrails of democracy.
Yeah. Dismantling of the guardrails.
So that you can bring back this dictatorship.
Yeah.
And everything got to run from Jagdio's house.
That's right.
Or at the place where they're going to eat steak every Friday night.
And leave the opposition while they're doing that.
Hard Rock Cafe.
Leave the opposition while they're doing that. Starbuck News is shocked that the unwillingness based on their promise to insist on the renegotiation of the production sharing agreement with ExxonMobil, based on their own promises, Stabrook News is shocked also that the PPPC has been lax in securing regulatory boundaries and has been indulgent with ExxonMobil. Here this indictment on the Ali regime. And I'm coming to the DPP's husband, the head of CIOG's statement this evening. Stabrook News is shocked that the government is yet to present a single piece of legislation on the oil and gas industry a year later. Stabrook, this is the editorial. They are shocked. We would have believed by now, after 12 months, the government is yet to activate the Natural Resource Fund Act. They're shocked. They are shocked that the Keystone Petroleum Commission is yet to be established. They're shocked.
Yes. Well,
reaction.
They are shocked, but we are not.
We are not.
Because we know this is what they are.
That's correct.
The money in the Natural Resources Fund, there are certain procedures on which you can access this money. They don't want all of that. There's too much for them. Now, I read yesterday or day before yesterday, they said that they got 80 million US for the first lift or something like that. Now, we don't know how much is the real amount. They have never really disclosed to this nation the arrangements or the agreements that they have entered into for the sale of the oil and gas. And you know, sometimes some people get upset with Denlal. I get upset with him sometimes too. But let me tell you this, he is on a right track where this oil and gas is concerned. They're thieving that money and they're not protecting us. They're not protecting us, they're not protecting our children in relation to those sums of money which should come into that fund. They are doing all sorts of craziness. The Ministry of Natural Resources, they are issuing licenses like mad. The EPA that's meant to give a protection to us, our environment, they are issuing licenses simply on a telephone call from a certain gentleman in Pradoville too. And so they have a head of the EPA that is now saying all of these major projects, which by law requires an environmental impact assessment, that these things are not needed. So I take off the box and say, you can go. So in relation to our oil and gas, and in relation to all of the other assets of this country, what these guys are doing, they have broken down all of the protections that we have put
That's
there.
right.
So they can put their hand inside it and just share out to the people who they want. Look, when we were in government, you imagine that the AP and the AFC entered into agreement with Nigeria or Ghana or some one of these places to sell oil. The madness that would have taken place here. This administration goes and sells oil to India at a price that we don't know about. But they sell it to India, and nothing you hear from Transparency International, nothing from the Private Sector Commission, nothing from the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and nothing from all these bright people that used to write against us. Nothing. What is going on with them? Why have they become silent? We as the opposition, we got to keep hammering it. And we have to keep educating at the point Khemraj raised just now. We have to keep educating our people, bringing them up to date with the information that's available to us. Very often, if we don't go into the parliament and ask a question of these ministers, they're not saying anything. This country is being run from Hard Rock Cafe. It's being run from the private homes. And according to this gentleman who wrote this article in the papers the other day, contracts are being awarded in mosques and these places.
But let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, leader of the opposition, because you made some comments about a lot of a category of people seem to be getting a lot of contracts and so forth.
Yes.
And then this evening, I don't know, I'm pretty young in this business, whether we've had such an endorsement from a religious organization that we've had in the Central Islamic Organization's Director of Education, is this Sheikh Moin Ul-Haq. And for those persons who don't know, this is the husband of the Director of Public Prosecution.
Yes.
And Moin Ul-Haq wife, at the beginning of the Ali administration, dropped the 19 fraud charges against Irfan Ali, dropped the fraud charges against the now Attorney General, installed all that they are, Mr. Nandilal, dropped the charges against Claudette Singh, the chairman of GCOM, dropped the charges against Ashni Singh and Mr. Brassington.
Yes.
Right? Drop all of these fraud charges. And now here is the husband of the director of public prosecution, almost as though he's on the campaign trail and on the lectern, giving what Demwaris call a ringing endorsement of President Ali's performance over the last year. But he and Sabak News seem to have watched a different movie. And I want to invite at this time an executive from the Working People's Alliance, Dr. David Hinds. Reactions, guys. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Sharon. And you're bringing me some heavyweights tonight.
Let's fight, sir. Reactions.
I'll give David an opportunity, Sharon, but just let me say that there's enough in the public domain that will allow for persons to believe that this statement by the CIOG is really coming from an organization that seeks to support one of their brethren. I have irrefutable evidence from persons who are businessmen that actually went into the mosque during Ramadan and accosted by Irfan Ali, telling them but this and now they support AP and AFC, and asking one of them to tell him about any business transactions he got with Joseph Harmon. This is a businessman of long standing, and this is in the mosque. This is in the mosque. So when I read this article by this gentleman who speaks about all of these things, and you know, in all the 28th paragraph, the 7th paragraph, the 13th paragraph, up to now they didn't answer this letter yet, you know. Up to now there is no response to the letter that has been written in the newspaper. So when the CIOG and organizations like that come out, I am expecting to hear the private sector commission, the business people, and other organizations coming out. But I don't know. This is a Muslim thing as far as I'm concerned.
Dr. Hinds.
Well, Sharon, good night. Happy emancipation to Khemraj and Joe.
Thank you.
I think we have to go back to the 5 months period. And I think a lot of these organizations and individuals take their claim to the PPP winning the election and doling out resources to them. So I think what you're really seeing is really aligning up for our resources and saying, look, we stood by you in those 5 months. We helped to spread this notion that the coalition rigged the election. Now we are coming for our payback, you see? And so this saying, oh, Ali is done, or well, and so on, has to do with coming for their resources. But it also, you see, these things have implications. The implication is that it would now strengthen those on our side of the political divide who are saying that these people are discriminating against Black people. You see? And the PPP, they're not crazy. They have to know that when they do that kind of stuff, it is building that perception. So I think they're deliberate, trying to create this sense of solidarity, the empowering of the Muslims, the empowering of the larger Indian community, and I don't think it augurs well for race relations.
Yeah, I want to both the speakers there. It is a combination of quid pro quo as a result of support, but also it is the one side of tribalism, meaning that it's our people, our Muslim community got to support this Muslim president.
Yes.
So they went in an extreme stretch to go that far. The CIOG hardly ever does things like these when
Yes.
it's a Granger or even a Ramutar. But you can see now that this thing has caused them. That why we can't do our Muslim brethren that. We got to pay him homage, you know, and say, well, he did a fantastic job, excellent, par excellence, whatever. It is crap. Religious organizations must know their places. And it is important that what was just said by David there, whilst it will create that solidarity, it is going to have tremendous resentment on another side. And so even if the president wanted that cheer up, he should have said by this thing and create some resentment. But of course, he's not a University of Ghana student. The man is a University of Haiflat student. And you will have that difficulty of understanding that the resentment it will cause is going to be far outweighing the nonsense of par excellence.
Yeah.
So you understand it. So this is the trouble we will have in this community. And that is where sometimes leadership can stop and bring a halt to that which is the negative, notwithstanding that you would want the compliments. But, you know, I don't expect better from them, both the CIOG and also the president, because you have to curb this kind of what you call complimenting of the president from an organization like that. Yeah. And so a lot of people can then go and say in the Muslim community that, you know, when it was another period of time, like say Granger time, we don't mix politics with religion and come out of it like that conveniently. But they didn't want to do it this time. And so they say, well, we have a freedom to come who we want to, and so then they conveniently use that. But there is an inconsistency about the politics of the CIOG, and so on that score, I must give them that, you know, they didn't do a good job of it. But of course, Moinin Haq, sorry, he can very well be openly supportive and then will say, well, I have no apologies to make. But it can create resentment in other quarters. And this is what happens, especially when you're dealing with contracts inside of mosques and all kinds of things. And then that very telling letter written by, is it Rajesh Prasad or something like that?
Yes. Leading the opposition is David Hinds, right? Is Dr. Hinds, right? Is Khemraj, right? That this is kind of a payback, because in this 5,000, not 50,000 jobs, 50,000 words presentation by Ali, he thanked the stakeholders who helped them into office, but he didn't thank, for instance, the frontline workers for COVID, the frontline workers for the national flood, and so forth. Is this payback? Payback.
It is payback. It is payback, Sherrod. And all you can see, in fact, that's why I said to you earlier, that a lot of people in the business community, many of them who supported, but there are a new set of players that are coming in now that are getting the hug of all of these contracts. There are certain companies in this country that getting contract to build prison, getting contract to provide security for the cash grants, getting contract to build for quarries, and a whole host of other contracts that are not consistent with any one set of skills that they provide, but every single thing, you know. So it is shameless. It is shameless the way that Irfan Ali has gone about this sort of partisan distribution of the national patrimony of Guyana
without procurement rules. Without procurement rules.
With no procurement. Well, that's what I'm coming to know. With no procurement, no public statements on this matter coming from the government itself to say, we have at the cabinet today awarded this contract to this person and the contract is so much, and the contract is about this. You have to hear about all of these things now by a whisper. Somebody who is affected, who had been bypassed
Competitors. Yeah.
for the contract, they are now having to speak out. So what I'm saying is that we have damaged this transparency that we have spoken about so well. We have damaged all of those benefits which we brought as an APNU AFC administration to the people of Guyana. And now within 1 year, all of these things are being destroyed and all of the resources of this country being trampled upon.
Yep.
You know, the environment is such an important thing. All of these mangroves that are cutting down and so on, under this administration, I believe that the organization that gave Jagdeo that champion of the Earth award should take it back. Should take it back because he's a disgrace to those bodies. He's a disgrace. And he sits there and sees his good friend Brassington, the other B, and sit there and they're just awarded, just signing off documents like that. And so what is happening in this country here is a certain level of lawlessness, and I call it executive lawlessness, that is taking place. And as I said yesterday on the program, wherever authoritarianism exists, wherever dictatorial tendencies exist, it is the obligation of the people and their leaders to resist. It is the obligation to resist. And what is happening here now in this country, we have reached a point where the people will have to draw the line, and with their leadership at all levels, not just the political level, at all levels of the society, we have to stand together and make a very clear and distinct statement that this here has gone beyond the pale.
Well, I think the folks in Buxton started.
And allow them to keep doing what they're doing.
Yep, I think the folks in Buxton started. Dr. Hinds,
Yes.
why a year later, leave the opposition talking about who getting contracts, who getting the money? Why haven't Guyanese people been getting this money in an equitable way? Why so many persons still left holding this pink slip?
Yeah.
Why not direct cash transfers?
Yeah, partly because it is the PPP is reading its mandate in absolute terms. They feel that they have the backings of the foreign countries. They feel that the opposition is disunited. They feel that opposition supporters are despondent, and they're taking advantage of the situation. They're pushing the envelope as far as it can go. And I think it has always been part of the PPP's that when you put your hands on power, you try to do as much as you can do with that power until you are confronted. And the danger of that politics is that it forces an extreme form of retaliation, which is never good for any country. You see, you and I, Sherrod, we were in Buxton today. You saw the mood of those people.
Yeah.
You saw the mood of those people, and we have to quiet them down. We were there for 2 hours picketing, and they didn't want to stop. They wanted to continue, and we had to show leadership and say, let's close this for now. We will continue on another day. People are angry. And the PPP is not seeing that, because in their heads, let them be angry today, tomorrow. They're making assumptions about the population, which I really think is dangerous. You are not seeing here any thought going in to keeping the country stable. All the thought that is going in is to use the power that they have at their disposal in absolute terms and let the chips fall wherever they may be. I think that is so dangerous. I'm saying that as a person who considers myself a radical. But you can be radical if people's lives are being taken stupidly, it doesn't help radicalism, right? What we want is to settle our problems in a sensible and peaceful way. And the PPP is closing that door 1 year after.
1 year.
1 year after, look at what we're being faced. How do they expect us to deal with that? How do they expect us to deal with our angry supporters? Could we go and tell them, you have no right to be angry? No, Joe is right. We have to move to another level. And as I would usually say, what direction we take in the next year is in the PPP's lap. They will determine by their actions what direction we take.
Yep. Any contributions, Khemraj?
No, well, I want to support that. That is a
I want to come to my final observation.
Yeah, I want to support that thesis because that is the classicus on it. But I want to make this addendum. The PPP wants to provoke black people. They want to provoke black people because they know the tribal politics of especially their base support. And they're going to be the first, and I have mentioned this on very many occasions, long before joining APNU and so on, that they're going to then video record. And within the groups that are going to demonstrate, they're going to put some elemental thugs there who are going to throw the first firebomb. And it has nothing to do with APNU or AFC black supporters, but one of their thugs. And when the fire start, they're going to say, you see, it's them black man that by they ain't good. Them black people is no good. Yeah. And all your colleagues have to come back home. The East Indians, you got to come back home, Amerindians. And that is what they're provoking. But they wouldn't be able to end what they would want to start.
That's it.
Because they have a set of real on the heads as leaders there, because they're not going to be able, and that is why people like myself and Joe and so on have been talking about these things very, very seriously. We also had to do a number of talking like that with Granger as president in that 5-month period, because we had to ensure that we do not create an unstable Guyana. And a lot of people don't know about that.
Right.
It is important, very, very important, that people understand that that is what the PPP, especially Jack, they wants. Because he feel then he gonna win elections forever, because that is the nature of the black man. Broke it up, burn it down, and whatever. That he ain't got nothing good about him. And that's the stereotypical thing that PPP as a gut reaction in this kind of tribal politics want to see happen.
Yeah.
We must not allow that to happen.
Yes.
We will provide the leadership that it doesn't happen. But we got to knock the PPP as to where they're creating the provocations. And it will come. People who get sense, people who will appreciate, especially their supporters.
Leader of the opposition, my final observation, Khemraj and Dr. Hinds. One of the things that His Excellency David Granger took a lot of flack for is this notion that he didn't like press conferences and all of that. But I know you, Leader of the opposition, in your portfolio as the Minister of State, I almost said Secretary of State, that too, stood countless times and explained to the nation the deliberations and decisions of cabinet. Starbuck News, again, speaking to the larger notion of accountability, said it is more than just meeting citizens. They said accountability has a much broader canvas. And here, the government has much work to do. Communication of cabinet decisions and explanations of them has been found wanting. The public has a right to be aware of decisions taken by the cabinet and their justification. The covert issuing of 2 trawler license early in the life of the administration remains of concerns. Ministers have given explanations as matters arise, but this has to be done in a structured way. Regular presidential press conferences have been a useful vehicle for the head of state to explicate and enable engagement with the media. But Ali, thus far, seems disinclined. They don't want accountability, largely. Your thoughts, and then Khemraj and
Shara, this is because Irfan Ali is not his own man. Barra Jagdi is running the show. And he had the temerity to say when asked a question about post-cabinet press conferences, they say, he don't know, but he don't go to cabinet. He don't go to cabinet. So this is the arrogance. This is the contempt for which they hold the people of Guyana. Because the cabinet meetings obviously makes no decisions, but it's the meetings after the cabinet meeting at another place where they make these decisions about our health, our welfare, the security of this state, the resources of this country, and the social cohesion of our people. These are decisions which must be communicated to the public by a sitting cabinet. This is how you deal with transparency. This is how people understand how the business of governance takes place, and the ability of the media to question you on all of these decisions that you make. It's not just about you sitting down and making a press statement and it goes out like that. Open yourself to being questioned. Let the media come in. Don't select one or two persons. Let everybody come. When I have press conferences now, Sherrod, people ask me questions from Jamaica, from Barbados, all over the world. They come in and asking questions because Guyanese are all over the world and they have a deep interest in what is taking place in their country. And so for the question of transparency, the question of governance engaging all of the people, this government here gets zero again for transparency. Zero. And it is not just about a joke, because I take that editorial very seriously. This is no joke, because these guys are sharing out, parceling out the national patrimony of our country. And they're doing it without the light of day being shone upon those transactions. If we did not go into the parliament the other day, question the $953 million which was spent without parliamentary approval by this regime and given to the Sheikh in the United Arab Emirates, we would never have known what it was about, and that they had bought Sputnik vaccines, 200,000 doses for a month, for a sum that was more than twice the actual cost of these vaccines. And they still believe, because time running by, that we're going to forget it. But we will not. This is why we have that motion in the parliament. Every single day, we will speak about it. They feel that if they don't answer a question, and a day pass, another day pass, a week pass, they have this 1 week rule that once a week passes and you don't answer it, nobody will ask anymore. But that is not going to happen. Once we are dealing with the health of our country, we're dealing with the security of our state, we are talking about the way in which our national patrimony is being parceled off in a partisan way. We're talking about the security of our people and how they live, the way in which communities are being bypassed. That can't work. So David, the theory is spot on. It is spot on. I think Khemraj explains it even a little bit more, that people can understand it in a very raw way. And sometimes that is how we need to tell them. Tell them it's raw, because that is what they understand.
Yeah.
And I think, David, I want to commend you also for the work that you have done since your return here in raising up the sensitizing people to these realities which we are facing in this country.
Very well. Starting with, finally, starting with Khemraj and then Dr. Hinds. We're at this critical junction in our nation's history. 1 year after, what are your thoughts to the Guyanese people this evening, ending with leader of the opposition? Starting with Khemraj.
Yeah, I want to add to what was said just now.
Go right ahead, sir.
Leading the examined life is always a principle for the genuine politician. If you want to be ordering your society as a result of being in positions of power and good office or high office, you got to learn to lead the examined life. And leading the examined life means being allowing scrutiny from all quarters. Jagdeo don't like scrutiny, and Jagdeo has inculcated that in all his instruments that he got in the PPP. And to a large extent, a substantial amount of them don't like the scrutiny. That is why they don't come out after cabinet. Even if it's a Ministry of Education issue, the Minister of Education hardly comes out. Or this Robeson Ben in relation to the $700 million for some regional security. None of them comes out and say anything, because somehow they don't want to lead that exam in life. And secondly, also because they might not be participant in relation to the process that created that decision. And so there is tremendous irrationality about this governance method that we see in the PPP now. They sometimes don't even know what this money was when it went to the Ghana Defense Force, $700 million for crime fighting. When we had a commission of inquiry, I think Anil Nandalal was there, Granger was there, and all of them. The crime fighting is exclusively the domain of the Ghana Police Force. And Ben was, surprised that the Defense Board is going to control crime fighting monies to the tune of $700 million. So it is when you got the scrutiny not coming from a rational basis, the facts not coming from a rational basis, scrutinize, then hesitate, and they don't come forward. So when you're not part of the process of decision making, you will have that difficulty. And especially if, as a leader too, you don't want to know, you shut your eye, you don't care about the disinformation, and so on, you will have that. And that is the danger about the governance of the present PPP. Jagdeo got them by their I didn't know the word. He got them bad. And all they now got to take the instruction. And when they ask for a reason, they're not given the reason. So they have absolutely nothing to go to the press for, because when the press asks the very first question, they get scatterbrained. That is what happened to Zulfikar in relation to that fishing license. That is what happened. And that is what is happening all the time now.
Yeah. Dr. Hinds.
Yes. I just want to say to our supporters and the population in general is that no society that has gone through the history that we have gone through, the struggles that we have gone through, ought to stand for this nonsense any longer. And so therefore, I want to make a direct call to our supporters to come out and give us the backing. There are many ways we can protest, but our leadership needs the backing. We need to know that you all are there with us in a tangible way. We have to continue to change this narrative. I read today that the PPP is saying that they're not going to promote the Chief Justice and others until Mr. Harmon recognizes them. Mr. Harmon has already recognized them. Mr. Harmon is in Parliament with his troops. Mr. Harmon is not standing in the way of them governing. It is they who have not recognized the opposition. Who have not recognized the right of the opposition to participate.
That's right.
The opposition is part of government. They are bound by the Constitution. Whether Mr. Harmon say, I recognize you or I don't recognize you, they are bound by the Constitution to include the representatives of half of the population in government. They are the ones who have not recognized the government, the opposition. They are the ones who have not recognized the right of the 200,000 voters who voted for the opposition, their right to exist in this country as free citizens, their right to participate in the economic health of this country, however small. They have disrespected the supporters of the opposition, and in doing so, they have de-recognized the opposition. Our immediate task is to get them to recognize the opposition. That is our immediate task. And we have to fight on all fronts. Like I said, we've got to change the narrative. We've got to let Guyanese know it is not the opposition that is not recognizing the government that is not recognizing the right of the opposition to participate in the governance in this country. So Guyanese have to decide now, that we will take an active role in turning back the strain that is out of control. We've got to use our bodies as barriers, meaning that we've got to come out within the rules of the COVID-19, but we've got to come out and show our faces. We've got to come out and say to this government, but we matter too. We matter too. And we continue the struggle for sanity to return to this country. There will be changes of government. We've had changes in government all the time. But change in government should not mean that half of the population is thrown out into the ocean. We have to stand up, and this emancipation is a good time to say that we brought down the most inhuman system the world has ever known. It took us a long time, but in the end, we brought it down. And if we can bring down slavery, then we can bring down the callousness that is passing for government in this country.
Thank you, Dr. Hinds. The final words go to the leader of the opposition, Mr. Harmon.
Well, Sharad, I think this has been a very hot program. There are very, very strong views that have been expressed. I concur with those. In fact, I can close by saying I concur. But certainly it is important that I add my own little voice to those statements that have been made. Because the Constitution provides at least 12 different occasions when the president and the leader of the opposition must consult. And David is spot on where he says that I don't have to recognize Irfan Ali. I'm in the parliament. I passed 2 budgets. I've written to him at least 8 different times. And I am not going to go begging him. He has an obligation now under the Constitution to act. And if he cannot recognize that he is the person sitting in the office of the president and got certain obligations which he has to carry out, then too bad for him. I am not going to certify him. What certification does he need? He already got one from IFLAT University. What else do you want? I'm not giving him no bogus certification. He's already gotten what he needs. He must get on with the job of administering the affairs of this country in an equitable way. And unless he does that, the people, and as David said just now, the people will have to act. Yeah. And as leaders, we will provide that quality of leadership for them. We are not going to be doing wildness, but we will provide careful leadership that will guide them to ensure that this impasse got to come to an end. And so those will be my final words, Sharad. And I want to thank you for having me and of course, the other persons on this program tonight. As I said earlier, we have just released a documentary called The Theft of Democracy, which is going to be circulated very widely. All the world will see it. And so they can't talk about we doing this. It is in a documentary. And it is already out. And I'm recommending it for everybody to see, because that is important for us as the opposition, for people to understand that we are in a place where we ought not to be. But since we are there, our responsibility is to get rid, is to expose and depose of this regime, because all they're doing is governing for themselves, their friends and family. This is not a government of Guyana. This is a government of grabbers. That is what GOG for them means. Not governance, grabbing. And as the leadership, and I want to echo those sentiments by David, that we will provide that quality of leadership. We'll provide that guidance for our people and all of the people of Guyana. Because not only our supporters are feeling the heat, their supporters are feeling it too, and they are coming to us to give them representation. And we will give the quality of representation the people need, because this regime, every single day, the numbers that support them, they're shrinking. So they are basically a minority that's lording it over the majority of the people of this country. We will stand with that majority, and we will stand and we will confront this dictatorship that is now standing in the place called a government of Guyana, what I call the government of grabbers. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Leader of the Opposition, Joseph Harmon, Dr. David Hinds, Executive within the Working People's Alliance, and Khemraj Ramjattan, Leader of the Alliance for Change. I want to thank you all for being part of the program this evening. The State of the Nation, 1 year after. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Sherrod.
Great. Folks, there you have it. A little over our time this evening, but thank you for staying with us over time. I don't want to detain you guys 1 minute longer. Sanitize, social distance, wear your mask, do stay safe, ladies and gentlemen. Practice all of the COVID-19 protocols that are there for your health of your friends, your family, and your loved ones, and yourself. Do stay safe.